Hi, I'm Berg, Head of Security and Risk Management for LiquidNet Holdings, and a proud premium member of New York Metro InfraGard. This week on the Hack Report, I'd like to talk about the recent RSA security breach and what it means for us as security practitioners. First of all, what does this breach mean for organizations using RSA Secure ID two-factor authentication system to protect their systems and networks? Well, the fact that RSA felt the need to warn users that the information stolen could be used to compromise the security of the Secure ID system certainly sounds ominous. Such information would be of interest and of value to sophisticated adversaries ranging from organized criminals to nation-states. However, the damage done may not be as great as it sounds, since attackers have already found ways to defeat one-time password systems by writing malware which intercepts the token codes as they're entered on infected devices. Why bother trying to reverse engineer something that RSA spent thousands of hours and millions of dollars to build when you can simply compromise some user's computer to do your dirty work? The wording of the press release and subsequent advice from RSA to their customers was pretty interesting. RSA published an open letter to their customers on their website, which described the attack as a very sophisticated use of an advanced persistent threat to compromise systems which contained the information. Alright, my take on this is that basically someone with RSA with access to technical and design information got their PC infected with malware. RSA's description of the hack as extremely sophisticated and as an advanced persistent threat might suggest that the malware was custom and that the attackers were specifically gunning for RSA, which is not an outrageous scenario given the use of Secure ID to protect all sorts of interesting and valuable information. RSA then provided a list of security tips to help its users and others avoid falling victim to similar attacks. 3 of the 9 tips that they provided might provide some insight into what actually happened. First, they warn organizations to focus on the use of social media applications by anyone with access to corporate networks. Later in the list, they offer this advice. Tell users to avoid suspicious emails and not to give out usernames and other credentials when they're solicited by email or phone call. They should report such attempts. And they also added, review help desk procedures with a view towards blocking social engineering attacks. So, it sounds like the attackers used information from social networks and good old-fashioned social engineering to extract information on just who to target with their malware. They then would have used email or social media to get the malware installed on the target's machine, and game over. They had access to the data they were after, at least until RSA discovered the attack and took steps to cut off their access. If the scenario I'm describing is accurate, it says a couple of depressing things about the state of security. First, custom malware that can slip into networks undetected in spite of multiple layers of signature-based anti-malware software is becoming more and more the norm. I tell the users at my company that the antivirus software on their machines does protect them from low-level threats, but they're fooling themselves if they think that it provides total protection for corporate data. The reaction I get to this statement is usually genuine surprise. Many people have told me that they felt that since their PC is configured and managed by the company, it's somehow immune to malware attacks. If only this were the case. Second, in spite of all of the education and awareness efforts that we corporate security folks are making, even technically sophisticated users remain vulnerable to social engineering attacks. People seem to have this innate need to trust other people, and as hard as we try, we just can't stamp out this troublesome trait. It makes sense. In order for society to exist and function, there needs to be a certain level of trust between human beings. Unfortunately, the bad people out there are quite adept at abusing this trust for their own nefarious purposes. So as usual, it looks like what we need is some better technology, new antivirus, anti-malware software which gets away from the use of signatures to detect threats, and more importantly, effective ways to make our users just a little bit more suspicious and a little bit less trusting. My approach to the latter problem is to run tests where we try to get people to fall for the tricks used by these attackers and actually install some benign malware on their systems. Once their PC is compromised, I bring them in for a demonstration of the attack from the attacker's point of view and basically scare the snot out of them. Now, my company is small, we're just over 300 people, and this approach seems to be working for us, but it might be difficult to scale in much larger organizations. We also need to make users understand that their use of social media to share information about their personal and professional lives increases the risk that they will be targeted for attack. One interesting risk has to do with the very elastic concept of friendship. People have so many online friends and contacts that they may assume that an email coming from some randomly chosen name is actually from a person that they've met online. In any case, it seems like we've entered a new phase in the ongoing war with cyber attackers. And in this phase, we're going to be dealing with custom malware, social media, and social engineering. Well, I guess it's going to keep us all employed. Thanks.